So it's been several days since Mushoku Tensei Season 1 ended, and as I said at the end of my episode 23 reaction, I wanted to give my thoughts on the show so far. There's so much to talk about, but essentially everything I have to say revolves around Mushoku Tensei being a modern classic in the Isekai genre, and for many, a classic in general. Ever since 2012 Sword Art Online popularized Isekai anime, we've seen a boom in the amount of Isekai that come out every year. You can expect at least 2 or 3 of them every season, using the cookie cutter template of a main character getting whisked away to another world. This has definitely led to an oversaturation of the genre that often results in a lot of bland Isekai being pushed out, ultimately being labeled as Isekai trash. There are those, however, that break through that curse and make a name for themselves, and Mushoku Tensei is one of them for sure. So there's a few things I want to talk about, and obviously I can't cover every single minute detail of the show, but starting off, I would say that the show does a great job establishing that classic Isekai atmosphere, and it does that in so many different ways. Working with a singular artist to craft the OST for the show is something very few anime do. Air Aoi for Sao and Suara for Utawareruma no immediately come to mind, and Mushoku Tensei did just that with Yuiko Ohara. Anyone who's watched the show knows how amazing the soundtrack is, from the opening and ending songs to the sounds playing during the episode. Working with one artist shows that the score is of utmost importance to the studio. Hearing Ohara's music evolve and change with the ebbs and flow of the story turns her into a household name, associating her permanently with the show and embedding her in our hearts and minds. You know, a lot of isekai give us pop-style songs that are energetic and try to get us into like a hype mood, but Mushoku Tensei really wants its audience to feel immersed in the world that they create. And so the music itself invokes a more ancient feeling, something you'd normally associate with fantasy worlds or anything taking place in a sort of medieval time. Honestly, a lot of the time, I felt like I was watching Game of Thrones or The Witcher whenever I heard the openings and endings, and rarely did I ever skip them. The design of the new cities and places our characters visit is central to the immersion because no two places look exactly alike. The Doldian community that lives in the forest with tree houses and bridges connecting them is a prime example of this artistic vision. I mean, where else have you seen that? Characters in this show all go through metamorphoses that stick with them for the rest of the episode. Although our main character is a bit more talented than most other characters when it comes to magic, he has a lot of growing up to do, and with that comes changing how he treats people and tackles certain situations. The way he views himself in a negative light as someone who resists change and refuses help ultimately starts to change throughout his journey. So seeing that growth within him provides inspiration for the viewers. Yeah, he's a 30-something-year-old man in a child's body, but that also affects his mental age as the two characters merge and essentially become one. He might have the wisdom of his older age, but is also affected by the childlike inclinations of his physical body. It isn't only him growing. Ruijerd learns how to open his heart to humans even after being persecuted for his race. Eris learns to control her temperament, while at the same time going from feeling useless to working her ass off to become someone that can protect Rudeus and her loved ones. So again, it isn't only Rudeus we see grow up, it's everyone around him too. Lastly, I gotta talk about all the fine details that this anime pays attention to and just how they go above and beyond. And this is a little bit less about isekai anime and just more about anime in general. So bouncing off what I just said, the passage of time in this show is done so gracefully and seamlessly so as to not mess with the flow of the story. And this also complements our character's journey and stresses that growth does not happen overnight and that time is just as consequential to improvement as initiative. And you can see that reflected in the fact that our characters spend almost 2 years in the Demon Continent, where much of their character growth occurs. And this isn't the only time where time passes. There's many moments where Rudeus in his head will tell us that 6 months have passed or this amount of time has passed. And that really just makes the show more real. This show did something I don't remember seeing from any anime, and that's creating whole ass languages for non-human races and communities. Whether that's the beast language or the demon language, you can often find Rudeus speaking in different tongues. This is something they didn't need to do at all, but it adds considerably to the immersion of the world as a true diverse fantasy world. You know, oftentimes in anime, you'll see different languages here and there, but they'll be spoken in Japanese, and you'll only be given an indication that a different language is being spoken. But to go above and beyond and create whole languages just for the show is something I can't say I've seen before. Shout out to the voice actors for putting on an incredible performance. So this show did something very special with their opening songs. Instead of just creating a video for it and playing that every episode like most anime do, they decided to overlay actual content while it played. Usually that content would be the setting the episode would take place in, which would set the mood. It would give us an introduction to where our characters would be visiting, whether it was a city or whether it was some sort of scenic landscape. And other times it would give us backstory without saying a word, showing us Paul's backstory, or just showing our characters interact with each other. This technique literally added more minutes of content into a 23-24 minute episode. And instead of having to set aside time during the episode to show us this backstory, they just put it right into the opening. This is not normal for anime to do. You might see it every once in a while in a season finale or a special episode where the intro is shown on the screen and credits as well as the episode continues on, but usually a 1 minute 30-second opening is standard. And if I'm being honest, I skip most of them after I've watched it once or twice already. The only other anime I can think of that does something similar is ReZero, which completely removed opening songs for its past season, while at the same time increasing the episode time to around 30 minutes. So clearly, the studio behind this show is very passionate about making sure they tell the story as best as they can. So just one more quick thing, and this is what really inspired me to even make this video. The show actually redid the first opening as its most recent opening at the end of the season, and the changes they made to it reflected the somber tone of the story compared to the more uplifting one from the beginning, when Rudeus was still in his early years learning the basics of the world. It also mirrored a full circle return to his home village, which was completely unrecognizable from when he first started. So overall, I feel like Mushoku Tensei will be looked back on as a pioneer for the genre, in the sense that it's redefining what Isekai with serious storylines should strive to be. You know, we've gotten so many Isekai anime since Sword Art Online came out, and sometimes you can get lost in the sauce with the sheer volume of them that come out, and the amount of them that just aren't really that interesting. More generally though, everything about this show proves that when animation studios give love and time to their projects, they can create works of art that blow people's expectations out of the water and become immortalized. Regardless of when season 2 comes out, I'm definitely going to remember this show for a long time and would definitely recommend it to anyone looking for a more classical isekai feel to an anime. So let me know how you guys' journey with Mushoku Tensei was, and if you haven't watched it yet, are you going to? And as always, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification to know when videos come out, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.